Hello, my love. Welcome to another episode of Blisstopia podcast. I am your host, Mercedes Castellani, and I am so excited to be recording this episode. As I shared with you last week, we are launching a new format in the episode, and we are going to start interviewing people who are already living in Blisstopia. If you want to know what that means, just go to the episode last week where I explained everything. But I'm so excited for this conversation. I'm so excited for our first guest, who is Shannon Tomascak. Shannon is a self-connection and mindset coach. She facilitates women's circles in Bali. She hosts the Windows to the Soul podcast and guides therapeutic movement sessions. So welcome, Shannon, to the show. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
So I'm super happy that we're able to have this conversation. You're living in Bali, you're living the dream life. And today we're going to talk all about freedom. You know a lot about freedom, you actually embody freedom. And I think the listeners from Blisstopia podcast can learn a lot from you. So let's dive into some of the things that I wanted to discuss with you today. So, would you like to share your story with us and mention some of the things that you had to break free from in order to live the life that you are living now?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mercedes. I really love this topic of freedom because I think what the word means to you. Well, for everyone, I think the word is going to be so different, but we want I essentially think that we should be living our life as we go along this path with more and more freedom. Like, we don't want to go through life feeling more and more stuck or feeling really limited. Like, there's certain things we can't do, certain things we can't be. And that was how I had lived most of my life, really, up until probably the last 3, 4, maybe 5 years. I didn't even know that it was possible to change things. I knew that we could maybe work really hard at a job and maybe you move up in the job that you're working at, but it's like I didn't realize how much we could change about our identity and like the possibilities that we see for ourselves. So for example, when I was a lot younger, I went to college. I was studying psychology. In college, I really fucked around. Excuse my language. I really just partied. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and I didn't do that well in school. And then after college, I was limited, or I was told that I was limited by those grades that I got. Oh, you didn't really do that well in school, so you're probably not going to get into the grad school that you want, and it's going to be hard for you. And I did end up going to a grad school program. I was told that about going to like the next level, which was the PhD program to become a therapist. And it was like something was really weighed on me of like, I made all these bad decisions. I messed up in school. I couldn't undo it because they told me like my GPA was what mattered so much to getting into this PhD program. And so I was really holding all of these weights over me. Like, I'm limited. I'm bad. I'm dumb. I shouldn't have done things this way. And that really affected the life that I was living. Like, I didn't really see a great financial future for myself. I didn't really see myself as finding like a dream partner. Like, that term even gave me the ick or the cringe. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll find someone, but that's just like okay for me. What else? Yeah, I just didn't think that there could be this dream life, like ideal life. It was like, okay, I can just do something that I like doing. I won't make a lot of money and I'll forever have these weights over me from my past. And that feels terrible. Like, that really didn't lead to me feeling good. Like, I was anxious, I was depressed, I was sad. I had no voice, I had no confidence because I felt like ashamed of these things and I didn't want to talk about them with people. And yeah, it's like it was a very gradual process of slowly breaking away from those things, realizing that I could break away from them, that I didn't have to tell the story the way that I told the story of my past. I think like that was one of the things that I really feel more free of now is the story that I'm telling about what happened, because that those things happened to me, but the way that I was telling myself about them was that it was so bad, I was so dumb, I was so wrong. I wasn't my best self. Like, I made dumb decisions, all those things. And now it's like, okay, yeah, now I know more. Now I don't want to behave like that. Now I don't want to do those things, but it's okay. Like, they were lessons. They brought me here. They taught me so much. And yeah, that's a little bit about, I think, the past version and kind of like breaking free of these
Oh,
old
that's
stories and
amazing.
that it's even possible to do so.
Yes, yes. And I imagine it's not an easy process, because it's like we've created this skin around ourselves that it's like, you need to let go of that skin, that old skin, and grow a new skin. So it's not an easy process. And I know you're really aware that, of course, our thoughts and our stories, as you said, the way I was telling that story, that's super interesting, creates your reality. So, which were some of those like stories that you broke free from, that you decided, okay, I'm just gonna rewrite this story. I'm gonna completely have a complete different interpretation on this situation. How did you get to that point of rewriting your own story?
Yeah. So I think it was just learning first about the thoughts that we have, like that you can be the observer of your thoughts. Because before I was just living, and I think most people are just living like through your own eyes, like you're just responding and reacting to what you see in front of you. You're responding or reacting to your thoughts. And I didn't realize that you could take this kind of observer or this like backseat to what's happening and just watch what you're thinking. Notice what emotions you're having. Notice these stories playing out in action. Because if you want to change anything, you have to really understand them. You have to become really aware of them. And so I started learning about this from a few different places. One was through yoga. I started with a yoga teacher training, and obviously that really taught me to slow down and listen to my body, drop into my body. Before, I really
Hmm.
didn't want to slow down. I was always busy. I was always going, living in New York City, and just like I could never slow down. So I really didn't know what was going on in my mind. I didn't know what was going on in my body. And so yoga really helped me slow down and listen, pay attention. And then I started diving more into spirituality, diving more into self development and growth, reading the books, listening to the podcasts. I took a coaching teacher training, which was about the subconscious mind. And so of course, I think we all have heard that term before. We all know, like, oh, there's some subconscious part of ourselves, but really, like, how much of that is affecting what's going on in our world. And we really want to become aware of that, because
Hmm.
on the surface level, on the conscious level, we're like, yeah, I don't want to be suffering. Yeah, I don't want to be living this way. Yeah, I want more money. Yeah, I want this partner. But if subconsciously you are telling yourself a story that you can't have that it's not possible, that you're unworthy, that's what's going to be your reality. And so that was the case for me, is I didn't realize,
Yes.
like, so much of underneath the surface were these really, really negative stories that I was telling myself. I was really, really mean to myself. And yeah, you asked the question of like, what story did I really break free from, I think. And I think the main one, it's like the overarching one, is just what was possible for me, because I had these limitations before,
Hmm.
that this certain things were available to me, certain things were possible for me. I thought because I had made mistakes, that word, I don't love that word, but just for lack of a better word, I had made these mistakes so that
Hmm.
I couldn't be the person that I'm inspired by, basically. Like, oh, I can't be a great coach, or I can't be a mentor, or I can't be someone who's showing up online because I've done all these bad things, when in fact those things are probably gonna be more influential to help people with, because I've gone through them. So yeah, I just think that I had,
Exactly.
what was possible for me was really limiting, and I changed that story to, I'm still working on it because I think it's changing every day, but that I like trying to believe that anything is possible. Any success, any career, any relationship, any amount of money, anywhere you want to live, like, it's possible. Maybe not right now, maybe not in a month, but like that all of these things are possible. And I never thought that way before.
Hmm. And it's amazing. And if you look, at the life that you've built now, you are the coach that you wanted to be. You have an incredible community of women over there in Bali. You are there with your partner. You're living in Bali, which is like, I mean, so many of us would love to be doing the same things. And you've been able to build all of that because you've been able to rewire those stories of what is possible for me. And I think in that sense, you're really teaching us, I think the true sense of freedom. And freedom starts here in our minds, in, okay, all of this is available to me and I deserve this and I can go out and get it for myself and build it for myself. So thank you so much for embodying that, for being that inspiration for all of us, all of the listeners in Blisstopia podcast. So talking about Bali, we, a couple of months ago, when this was still a dream, we were having messages back and forth, and you were telling me that you were going to Bali with your partner. So, which were some of the challenges, again, and stories that you had to break free from in order to be in Bali? How did you get to that point from, okay, we're living in the States, this is our life now, to we have this crazy dream of living in Bali? How did you get from from real life to the life that you actually wanted to have?
Yeah, sure. So, like you said, it was always a dream. It was something that I had always wanted, but I had seen it more as this farther out thing of like, okay, one day when I have a lot of money, I'll have my home in America and I'll be able to travel abroad and like live both lives essentially. And I kind of had it in that box of like, that's how it has to happen. That's what it has to look like. And then I started seeing last year more people just getting up and leaving and going. Two people specifically, actually. One girl also in our program, our ANA, Megan McLean. And then one of my other friends from New York
Yes.
just sold most of her stuff, put it and brought the rest of it home to her family, and just got up and went to Bali and was like, I don't know when I'm coming back. And I'm like, okay, these people are doing it. Why can't I? Like, what? Well, I'm telling myself this story that I can't do it. So, and also nothing really was tying me to home. I mean, my family and my friends, of course, but it was like the job that I was working at the time was, I knew that job wasn't going to be forever. And then I didn't have my lease was ending at the end of the year, so I didn't have something else that I needed, like that was so hard to get out of. The rest of it was hard. The rest of it, like
Mm.
packing up my stuff and figuring out what to do there, the logistical stuff, like that was really challenging. But really, it was just me, the story saying, okay, this can be possible if I want it to be. And so my boyfriend was on board. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And then we just decided to say, we're going to go. And we said we were going to go for 6 months. Like, we kind of gave ourselves that time frame just to, so it didn't seem as scary, I guess. Like, okay, we have nothing tying us. My stuff's in storage. Let's go for 6 months and just see what happens. If we hate it, of course we can come back.
Mm.
If we love it, we can stay longer, but just kind of being flexible like that. And then what do you know? We're staying longer than 6 months.
Of course, you're in paradise. But it's amazing that you gave yourself that flexibility of, I can adjust. If I don't like it, I can always come back home and I'm safe. And if I like it, I can always stay there longer. And I think coming back to freedom, there's anytime we want to do something in life, there's like these two things that need to happen. First of all, if we have a dream, let's say, the first idea is, okay, this is possible. This is possible. Some people are out there are doing this. There's proof out there that this is possible, which is with what happened with these two friends. And then the next story that we need to be telling ourselves is, this is possible for me, because there might be a possibility there out there, but if I haven't made it possible for me, then it's still not part of my reality. So I think once we've ticked those two things, okay, this is possible, some people are doing it out there, there's proof, and then I need to convince myself, okay, this is possible for me as well, and this is how I'm going to do it. Bam, 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 bam. So this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I know that many of us millennials, we dream of this beautiful lifestyle that you've been able to build for yourself. And then you also talk a lot about breaking free from alcohol. And this is, this has been an important part of your story, maybe when you were younger, living in New York. And now you have decided to no longer drink alcohol. That's not part of your life and your identity anymore. So can you tell us more about that? Why did you decide to do that? And which are the benefits that you feel now? But how did you came to that point, to that decision in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a challenge coming to that place because I think for a long time I wanted to keep alcohol in my life because, like you were also talking about this earlier, like societal pressures. And I was thinking, like, I, everyone around me drank, my family, my friends. It was such a big part of life in America. So culturally, like, if you go to a baby shower, you drink. If you go to a birthday, you drink. And so I started to feel like it wasn't serving me. It wasn't feeling good for me for years prior, but I kept trying to keep it in my life. Like I was fighting with myself. Like I'm like, okay, I'll just take a month off from drinking here. It's fine. And then I would drink again and I would drink. I wouldn't drink that often, but when I would drink in excess and I also would be really hungover the next day. And so that just started to come at odds with the
Mm.
life that I wanted to live. Like I was doing my yoga teacher training, I was going down more of a spiritual path, and then I'm feeling this really anxious feeling after drinking the next day, and I'm like, I don't want to feel like this. I don't like this feeling. This doesn't feel good for me. I have so much anxiety, and sometimes nothing would even happen. Like I could have just been drinking at home with my friends, but still the next day I would have this hangover in that way. Of course, there were times where I was in dangerous situations too. Let me
Mm.
be clear about that. But it was just like this kept coming at odds with the person that I wanted to be. Something wasn't fitting, and I was still trying to make it work in my life because I thought that was so embarrassing or shameful to tell people I don't drink anymore. Like, what are people going to think? Are they going to think this and that? And so then I kept trying to do breaks from it. Then I would drink again and I would just have this icky feeling. And then finally, I just actually decided to do again another like month off break. I was doing a detox of my body. I was turning 30 and I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this 1 month cleanse, juice cleanse and non drinking. And then at that point, it just never came back into my life. Like I didn't even have to force it at that point. It was just like, I don't want to drink. Like after that, I just had no
Mm.
desire. And it was interesting, really interesting in the beginning how I had to learn how to be social and I had to learn how to interact with people. I had to learn who I was without alcohol because I think that's one of the hardest parts, at least from when I'm talking to people now and they're sober curious or they're just like I don't know how you could do that. Like I'm so nervous going to a party and not having a drink in my hand or I need to have a few drinks. So it was really weird and uncomfortable at first for me in maybe the first 6 months of like, how do I act? Like, am I acting weird? Like, do people know I'm not drinking? And then eventually I just learned that I'm comfortable with myself. I have fun. Like, enjoy going out. I love dancing. I love going to raves and I can have all the same
Yes.
fun without
Yes.
drinking. And that was radical because I think that is what people think you can't have. And I also thought that, like, you can't have that fun. But I can and I have. And now it's just not even a thought anymore. I'm not like uncomfortable without drinking. I act so normal. Like, literally, people always think that I'm drunk or that I'm drinking because I'm having fun and dancing. And yeah, I think the benefits of it for me is just clarity. I don't have that anxiety. I just feel good and yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think, it's like we've done everything the wrong way in society because we are naturally, people who are, joyful, who can dance, who are allowed to, to live, to be happy, to do all of these things. And then it's sort of like we've forgotten that power that we have inside of us. And then people need to be using And when I say people, I include myself in there because I still drink alcohol. But we need to be using all of these substances to sort of get that feeling again, of joy, of being lighthearted, of not caring what other people think. But in reality, that power, it's already inside of us. And we don't need to be using substances to feel things that are actually natural and normal to us. But it's our power. We have it inside of us. So it's amazing that you've been able to align with yourself, because it sounds like you were listening to your body and your body was telling you, I don't need this, I don't need this, like, let's break free from this. And it's amazing how you've managed to listen to your body, align with that, and now you live a life that makes you feel way happier. But I think that every time that we want to try something different or be someone different from what society wants from us, there's always going to be some societal pressure. It's like society wants us to keep in the same, within the pack. So how have you faced all the different societal pressures, not only in alcohol but in general in life? How, when you want to try something new, like going to Bali, and maybe some people tell you, oh my god, that's too risky, why are you going to do that? Or maybe you want to stop drinking alcohol and people are like, but why would you do that? So how do you manage when you receive societal pressure, and how do you manage to break free from it?
I think trial and error. I think, yeah, like just pushing through the discomfort of it, because it is uncomfortable. And for so much of my life, I didn't want to be seen as different. Like, I really tried to blend in. That's like one of the reasons I kept drinking for so long, and why I didn't start my career earlier and all these things, because I just wanted to be, I thought I had to do what everyone else was doing. I thought I had to go down that linear path, and the house was so important, the savings account was so important, et cetera, et cetera. But then I realized, like, okay, I'm not happy with those things. And the people around me that are doing these things that everyone's telling you to do are not happy either. So, like, what the heck? And
Exactly.
every time that I was starting to yeah, every time I started to do something different, and still, it is uncomfortable, it is challenging. Like, when people question you and you're not even so sure of your idea, like if people were questioning me about alcohol and I was in the newer stages of it, I would kind of get triggered by that. I'd be like, why, this is like, why are you asking me this? Why are you being like this? Like, because I wasn't so sure of it of myself at the time. Now, using the alcohol example, like, I'm so sure of my choice that someone could say anything to me and I really wouldn't care. It's like, that's fine. Like, I'm very happy with my decision. But in the early stages of doing something different, like, it's uncomfortable. And I think just like facing and managing that discomfort, like putting myself out online, like starting my business, so uncomfortable for me. I was always worried, what are people going to think? What are people saying about me? And like, that was consuming so much of my mind. And then I had to connect with, like, well, why am I doing this? No one is making me do this. Like, I don't have to do this. I want to. And so then you kind of just push through that discomfort and you realize, like, well, what's on the other side of it? I want to be living this different life. I want to be making the choices of my hours and my schedule and who I get to work with and where I get to live. So that's the reason why I'm doing this thing that's uncomfortable and different. And I think that's the same case for anyone, is like, whatever you want, like, why do you want to be doing that? Asking yourself those questions, like, is this really what works for you? Is this the life that you want to live? And like, just questioning it is first the most important part, because I think a lot of the times we're just living automatically, unconsciously. We don't know why we're doing anything. So ask yourself, what do you want to be doing? Why do you want to do it? And then if there's that strong, pull inside of you, you're going to know that you'll get through whatever pressure from people around you. And then also, like, as you start to put yourself out there more, you do the different thing, whatever it is, you're going to meet people in that place. Like, there's going to be people you're going to connect with that are like, I'm doing the same thing, or I want to do the same thing and I'm inspired by you. And then you're like, yes, you just go first and then other people will follow.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes. But I think, like you said, it's all about finding a very strong why inside of yourself. And I think it's also validating yourself, not expecting validation from the outside world, because maybe the outside world is not going to validate your choice. So you need to have a strong why, like you just said, and validate your own choice and be faithful to your choice no matter what. Even if some people don't agree, who cares? Like, it's your life, you do you, the other person does themselves, and then everybody's happy. And then, as you said, eventually you will find your own tribe of people who are doing the same thing as you. That's exactly how we met, doing different things from what our worlds thought it was like the normal thing to do. We're building our own business, we're helping lots of women out there, and that's how we met. And then you meet your own tribe and you have your new cohort of people that are more aligned with the things that you actually want in life and who support you in that. And then you have a program which is called Free Your Mind. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what you teach your clients inside of that program and how you help them free their minds? What are some of the tools and techniques that you share with them? You talked a lot about the subconscious mind. So, which are some of the tools that you use to help them reprogram their subconscious mind for freedom?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So it's a group program that I created and it's 7 weeks long. And essentially, I wanted to package all the things that I've learned, all of the teachings, all of the knowledge, and lots of different tools in this program so that people can take away the aspects that really speak to them, but also really open their eyes, open their mind to this deeper understanding. Because I didn't know this stuff before. Like I was saying earlier, I had no idea. So I just wanted people to learn and understand how their mind works and how they think so that they can change their reality. And each week we have a different theme, a different subject, and in the first few weeks we're talking about how our mind works, like how we actually are taking in information, how we're filtering it through our mind, and then how it's making sense of the world around us. We're talking about how our beliefs can be limiting us because maybe we don't realize that the thoughts that we're having and these beliefs are actually affecting the way that we show up, right? If we don't think we're worthy of more money, we're not going to go ask for a raise. We're not going to apply for better jobs. We're not going to take these action steps. So it's not just your thoughts. It's not this woo woo concept that your thoughts are creating your reality. Like you're actually behaving and responding to them in the way that's in alignment with them. So if you want to change the way that you're behaving and showing up, you have to change your mind. And so one of the other weeks, we talk about the thoughts and beliefs that I think are so essential to having a free mind, having a free life. And I'll talk about a few of those here. And they're concepts that I think maybe we've all heard, but I just think that when I started applying them to my life, I'm like, this feels freeing. And that's kind of what I want people to think about, not just in my program, but you too, listeners. Like, what thoughts, what beliefs like feel empowering and freeing for you? And so a few of those, one was the anything is possible, like really thinking about that. Anything is possible for you. Anything can happen at any time. Anything can change. And if you believe that, like anything can happen, right? And then the idea about there's no failure, only feedback. Like these things from your past, present, whenever are not failure, are not bad things, they're not mistakes. They're feedback, they're information that you're gathering. And then you can use that information to do something different in the future, but it's not a failure. It's not a weight. It's not something to hold on to. It's just information. This is really hard. Trust me, I know, because we easily want to go to that place that we did something wrong and bad, but we want to try to hold in our mind so much that we're gathering information. We can make different choices. And then another one that's really hard is this idea of life is happening for me, not to me. But I think that is so essential for freedom because if we think things are happening to us, we can't change anything. If we have no control, like the world is just this way, this person is just this way, my job is just this way, you can't change any of that, right? If it's all happening to you, you're not able to change it. But if you change the story, essentially, like it's happening for you. Maybe it's teaching you about a way that you don't want to live life. Maybe if something is feeling negative or not so good, maybe it's teaching you how to better show up and how to not live like this or how to not attract this again. And so it's all teaching you, and it's all happening for you to shape your life the way that you want it. So those are some of the essential beliefs in that kind of mindset that we want to cultivate for freedom. But it's not only about the mind. I think we also have to incorporate the body in these teachings. And so another few sessions are about our emotions, because we can't just think our way out of like an anxiety attack. We can't just think our way out of panic. We have to listen to our emotions too. So there's some information about how we can tap into our emotions, understand them, process them, feel them, let go of them. And then we talk about our purpose, whatever that looks like for you, like how to feel like you're contributing something to the world. And also, I think it's crucial to have some sort of spiritual practice. Like, not, you don't need to be religious. You can be, if that's your spiritual practice, that's great, but just something that connects you to the greater world, connects you to all beings. Because if you're just operating as just like this independent thing, like, I don't know, it just, that doesn't feel as free. You're just like, well, I don't know what I'm doing in life. I don't know what I'm contributing. So I think it's so important to have some practice or evidence that you are connected to something greater than you. And that feels like freedom to me. And then, yeah, we talk about how to embody freedom and what that looks like for you. And the whole process, we go through it in like a workshop format, but we're also doing some experiences in there, some meditation, journaling, and processing together. So it's really, really fun. I've loved hosting it and seeing it in this group format where week by week people are getting information, bits and bits, and then practicing it in their lives.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like we can learn a lot from this program. So thank you so much for sharing. And as you were sharing these three core beliefs, I could just feel my body like soothing, you know? I think when we have some of these limiting beliefs, our body will contract. But when you were saying the second one, you said it's not there's no mistakes, only feedback. I could feel my body like relaxing, accepting. And I think that's the freedom that these beliefs will be giving us. And the subconscious mind is stored in our bodies, you know, so it's so important to always be in contact also with our bodies in this path to healing. And you were talking also about spirituality. This is a topic that I'm really, really passionate and deeply connected with. So can you expand a little bit more on how spirituality contributed to your sense of freedom, how spirituality helped you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is an interesting question because I think it's changed its tone over time. Like, this question has changed for me because, well, back in the day, back when I was feeling so unfree, I had no spiritual practice. I had no spiritual beliefs. I think I would go as far as to call myself an atheist because I was raised Catholic, and then we kind of drifted away from that. And then I was struggling a lot in life. And then I was just like, there's no God. Like, why would God do this? Like, this is horrible. This is suffering. And just a lot of people around me were confirming that belief. So I just didn't have that. And then I started studying yoga. I started, like I was saying in the program, just kind of getting into the feeling that there's more to this life, that we're connected to something greater than us. And then that felt good for me. That felt right. And so that was kind of what like spirituality was for me for a while. And then a little less than 2 years ago, I started studying Buddhism. I took my first Dharma Buddhist course, and that really changed everything for me. Like, their beliefs are very different, I think, than what society kind of tells us, because the belief is that you can get enlightened. The belief is that you can permanently end all mental afflictions, which are what's spoken about as contributing to suffering, right? The jealousy, the envy, the anger, the anxiety, the depression, all of those thoughts, they call it mental afflictions, are what are contributing to our suffering. And so if you walk down this path of creating good karma and seeing the world as coming from you, you can get enlightened. And that's a pretty radical belief. It's a pretty out there belief. It's one that I'm still integrating into my reality. Like, is this really possible that we can actually end all of our own suffering and be completely free? So it's definitely contributed to my sense of freedom, because I do see these teachings as making sense in my reality. Like, the more that I am generous, the more that I receive. And the more that I'm kind to others, the more I'm seeing kind and good people around me. And I think that's really interesting, because going back to this idea of like what society tells you and what the world says, like, if someone is mean to you, you be mean back. Or if someone cuts you off, you get revenge on them, you cut them off back. Like this kind of like, you slapped me, I slapped you. And in Buddhism, they say, do not do that. Do not do that, because you will create more of that. So it's changed the way that I'm showing up. It's changed the way that I'm acting, and I'm really, really practicing it. And I'll let you guys know if I get enlightened.
Let me know. Let me know how you do it. Yes, I think it's amazing. And I really, really resonate with that. So I had a similar upbringing to yours. So my country, Argentina, is very Catholic. My family is very Catholic. My school was super Catholic. Eventually, when I was 15, I started studying philosophy. I started thinking for myself, and I said, oh my God, this makes no sense. So I got far away from religion, which is what I knew as spirituality. That's what my family, my upbringing told me. And then I had many years during my teenage years and early 20s where I was an atheist and I didn't believe in anything. And I think as a result, I felt deep down very lonely, very, very lonely, because it was just me, just me and my problems and me. That was my world. And then I think through spirituality, and same as you, I connect way more with Buddhism as a philosophical belief, not as a religion, of course. And I think what spirituality gave me was a sense of freedom from myself, in the sense that I'm just a tiny dot, and there's so much more than that. There's a whole universe, there's a bunch of other people, there's so many plants and trees and animals, and I'm just one dot. And having that sense of freedom, of not taking myself, as the center of the world, as the only thing that matters, and having a way bigger perspective, allowed me to feel much more freedom, of course, being way more connected with other people, with other living beings, plants, animals, whatever. And yeah, and I think spirituality really contributed to that sense of freedom, because I was able to sort of forget myself in a good way, like not, I think in the Occidental world that we live in, it's so individualistic, and we tend to focus so much on ourselves that it gets too much at a certain point, and it's just too boring to be the only thing that you care about yourself. And through spirituality, I was able to enlarge my scope in a whole new way, and that's also what led me to eventually create Blisstopia, completely change my career, and actually dedicate my life to something way bigger than just myself, just a tiny dot in the middle of the ocean. So thank you so much for sharing that. And is there anything else you would like to add for our listeners in regards to freedom, to inspire them to feel more freedom?
Yeah. So I think just remembering that it's a process, it's a path, it's a journey, because maybe you're taking these steps and you're feeling like one thing you're free of, but then maybe you try something new and something different and you feel like resistance again or restriction and you want to close off. Like that's been my experience. Like I'm like, oh, okay, I'm free of this thing. And then another thing pops up, or you put yourself in a new environment, new situation, and then you're challenged again. So just remembering that it's a process, it's a journey, and you're going to be facing challenges all this time. It's not that it's not black and white, like you're either free or you're not free. Like you're just constantly evolving, constantly growing and changing and learning more about yourself and the world as you go. So not to be hard on yourself if you notice challenges coming up. I think like that's my biggest lesson in the last like year or so is like, oh yeah, I did all this work, so much inner work, so much understanding of myself, so much spiritual practice, but then you just expect everything to be perfect and it's not. Like you're gonna be challenged, especially if you're trying new things and going to new places. Like there's gonna be challenges you face. And so yeah, just I guess trusting yourself that you'll be able to get through it and that you are free. You're free to make any choices. You're free to change anything. You're free to go back. You're free to try something again. Like, don't limit yourself. Don't put yourself in boxes, and it will serve you so much.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Shannon, for all of that, all of this wisdom around freedom. It's a true pleasure to have all of this inspiration from you. Thank you so much again. So where can listeners find you online? Where is the best place to hang out with you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and asking so many insightful questions, so many things that sparked things in my mind and topics that I love talking about and sharing. So my Instagram is Soul Flow with Shannon. You can also find me on my podcast, which is Windows to the Soul. And yeah.
Amazing. We're going to put all of those links so that you have them in the show notes. So it will be super easy for all of you to access that. And then I love finishing the podcast questions. And the first question is, when was the last time you felt bliss?
Yesterday, I was walking along the beach in the morning with my boyfriend. And to be honest, even though we're in Bali, we're not at the beach that much. Kind of crazy, I know. So we had gone in the morning and gotten a coffee. And I was like, this is so nice. Like it was switching up our weekday because we're usually working. And I was just like able to relax. I actually jumped in the ocean for a little bit. And I was like, wow, this is nice. This is bliss.
I'm so happy. That's so nice. Thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I am feeling blissful as I speak with you. And I think our listeners will also feel super blissful when they listen to this conversation. I hope that it's going to bring sort of feeling in your body when things loosen up, when you realize that everything is possible, that you are free to do anything that you want, that things are possible in general out there for the world, but things are also possible for you. So I hope this episode will really empower people to look for different layers of freedom and to continue on this journey. Thank you so much, Shannon, for being on the show. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to have you, to talk to you. And I will see you on the next episode. And in the meantime, in Blisstopia we trust.